and welcome to WION. You're watching Inside South Asia with me, Neha Khanna. It's a show that takes an in-depth look at the week's biggest news stories from South Asia and how they impact your life. Today we bring you glimpses of the spectacular celebrations that marked India's 74th Republic Day, a day of pride for every Indian. Here's a quick look at what's coming up. Like every year, India's Republic Day celebration was a grand and awe-inspiring spectacle that left everyone who watched with goosebumps. It began with the biggest ever drone show and the grand traditional parade in the heart of India's capital. What followed was spectacularly colourful tableaus. All of it meant to showcase India's rich tradition, cultural heritage, unity in diversity, military might, and the giant strides made by the country in areas such as science and technology. Take a look.
It's India's biggest canvas, myriad hues of a nation's pride in itself, of the country's military prowess, a celebration of India's real heroes, an evolving social spirit, and a special marker of unity amid a diversity that is unparalleled. Republic Day 2023, India's 74th, marks the anniversary of India becoming a republic in 1950. A special start to a special day, homage to the fallen soldier at the National War Memorial. The Prime Minister and service chiefs pay tributes. Protocol reigned supreme in the President's arrival with the chief guest at the saluting base on the newly christened Kartavya Path, formerly Rajpath, in the heart of the capital. The chief guest this year was Egypt's President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, a first from Egypt, only the fifth from the Arab world.
His Excellency Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, the President.
And the 21-gun salute given for the first time with Indian-made 105mm guns, as distinct from the British guns used for decades. Perhaps the center point of what's called the Republic Day Parade are these marching contingents. The pacing and aura itself are said to reflect a pride and esteem that these regiments of the Army, Navy and Air Force carry. Men and women and cavalry set Kartavya Path in awe.
It was almost seen now.
Themed tableau of the forces showcased technological advancements, new generation equipment and service. A distinct theme is use of indigenous arms.
Expanded reach whereby it can render humanitarian aid across.
A highlight was the veterans tableau, showcasing their contribution and commitment and their initiatives in shaping India's future. Also marching on Kartavya Path for the first time was a combined band and marching contingent of the Egyptian armed forces. 144 representatives held up the Egypt flag. And then the color and cultural pageantry, the wonders of diversity. 23 tableaux rolled down Kartavya Path in all. 17 came from the states, each showcasing dimensions from mineral treasures to religious symbols. To those by ministries and departments, a first-time tableau from the Narcotics Control Bureau to tribal education and more.
Drug-free India.
A favourite down the years have been the cultural performances by students. 479 artists, including 236 female dancers, performed to the theme Women's Empowerment.
The Indian Air Force.
And the grand finale, the most eagerly awaited segment, the flypast. A breathtaking air show by 45 fighters of the Indian Air Force, 1 from the Navy and 4 Army helicopters.
Sukhoi 30.
It was a combined show of the vintage and the modern, MiG-29s to the Sukhois and Jaguars in multiple formations. Rafale fighter aircraft performed the concluding vertical Charlie maneuver. India is into the 75th year of its independence from British rule, christened by the political leadership as the Amrit Kal, India's time to shine. These Republic Day celebrations are an aspect of that milestone.
It's been reeling under the catastrophic effects of last year's devastating floods. It's battling an acute food crisis that has resulted in food riots. Its economy is in shambles. And now Pakistan is in the grip of an unprecedented energy crisis. On Monday, the entire country was plunged into darkness. Pakistan has no money left to import oil. Yet in the last 6 months, the country has splurged $1.2 billion on importing luxury cars, boats and aircraft. Talk about misplaced priorities. Now, they're desperately waiting for yet another IMF bailout. Going to the world with a begging bowl every time a crisis unfolds. Is that the only strategy that Pakistan's leadership has? After weeks of dire warnings, the worst fears of the people of Pakistan came true. On the 23rd of January, Pakistan saw the worst blackouts in the longest time. Following a complete breakdown of the national power grid, major cities like Islamabad, Karachi, Lahore, Quetta and Peshawar were plunged into darkness, leaving nearly 220 million people at homes, schools, hospitals and offices without electricity in freezing temperatures. It was the second such grid failure in 3 months, highlighting the infrastructural weakness of the heavily indebted nation. In capital Islamabad, almost 120 grid stations were impacted. Businesses and hospitals were the worst hit by the power outage. Several factories had to shut shop. A public hospital in Islamabad had to shut its operation theatres.
I've brought my sick relative to the civil hospital, where I'm facing a lot of problems because of the power outage. I have to keep bringing the patient in and out of the building because the X-ray machines and other testing equipment are in different parts of the hospital.
Some residents said they had no drinking water as their pumps were powered by electricity. The outage hit internet and mobile phone services. Traffic lights and computer screens went dark. Train and metro services also took a major hit.
People are deprived of cheap means of transportation. People are worried. They cannot afford to travel by expensive means like rickshaws or cabs.
Energy Minister Khurram Dastagir said the outage was caused by a large voltage surge in the south of the grid, which affected the entire network.
This morning at 7:34 am, a large voltage swing in the north-south corridor of the country occurred unexpectedly, which resulted in disturbance in the voltage and frequency systems.
Even during last October's power outage, it took hours to restore power. A senior ministry official blamed the outage and the frequent blackouts that Pakistan suffers on its aging grid, one that leaves people suffering almost on a daily basis. Pakistan has enough installed power capacity to meet demand, but it lacks resources to run its oil and gas-powered plants. The sector is so heavily in debt that it cannot afford to invest in infrastructure and power lines. China has invested heavily in Pakistan's power sector as part of a $60 billion infrastructure scheme that feeds into Beijing's Belt and Road Initiative. Analysts blame these power problems on Pakistan's aging electricity network, which, like much of the national infrastructure, desperately needs an upgrade. But the government says it simply cannot afford it. Pakistan typically meets more than a third of its annual power demand using imported natural gas, prices for which shot up following Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The country has lurched from one IMF bailout to the next. The International Monetary Fund has bailed out Pakistan multiple times over the decades. But a delay in the release of the latest bailout tranche has resulted in the country struggling to buy fuel from abroad. Fuel shipments make up the bulk of Pakistan's import bill, and current foreign exchange reserves that are hovering below $4 billion barely cover a month's worth of imports. Desperate measures have already been put in place. The government has ordered malls, restaurants and markets to shut by 8:30 p.m. every day to conserve energy. And at this time of an unprecedented economic crisis, when the country doesn't have money to import oil and people don't have money to buy food, it turns out Pakistan has splurged $1.2 billion on importing luxury cars, boats, ships and aircraft in recent months. To call it a case of misplaced priorities and gross administrative and political insensitivity would be an understatement. Can Pakistan put its house in order? Will the IMF be able to bail it out this time? What happens when the newest bunch of bailout money runs out and the next crisis strikes? Are these questions the political and military establishment of Pakistan are even concerning themselves with? Or are they just content with lurching from crisis to crisis and then going to the world with a begging bowl and a hat every single time? Afghanistan is almost always in the news for the myriad terror attacks, the atrocities inflicted on the people, especially the Afghan women, by the Taliban, their human rights abuses. But now, the country is making headlines for the brutal cold wave and the heavy human toll it's taking. Watch our next report.
Minus 33 degrees Celsius. The mercury hits near record lows. It's the coldest winter in Afghanistan in more than a decade. Since the beginning of 2023, 14 provinces in Afghanistan have reported cold-related deaths. The numbers are now into three figures. Images posted on social media show roads in several central and northern provinces blocked. News reports say many are cut off and will remain so for a long time. On the roads of the capital Kabul too, a nightmare plays out. Life and business are at a near standstill. Basic amenities of warmth and food are barely met. Battling brutally low temperatures and the slush and the snow is all most sections of the urban population know about. The pains and pangs of winter show, even in the momentary relief of this fire, that these folks huddle around. Beyond the terror fears that lurk always, beyond the excesses of the country's rulers, beyond the misogyny and rights abuses that Afghanistan has come to see as the new normal, it's the freeze that tortures. At least Abdul Basir Galamjam's family has a room to live in. No electric heaters, there's no electricity anyway to run them, but at least there's a coal heater inside the bed that will serve the purpose, irrespective of the dangers. It's how Afghanistan's poor have learned to live in harsh times.
In total, I get 4,500 AFN. With this money, the very first thing I do is buy flour. And when we get hungry, we somehow make pasta and eat that so as not to starve. After flour, we buy gas, oil, rice, and then the money is finished.
This hospital ward in Kabul overflows with pneumonia patients. some just a few months old. Rehmat's mother Mariam has brought her here for the third time this month. She can't afford the hospitalization expenses. At least the medicine she gets will give temporary relief. Her story rings true for so many others.
In the previous winter, my husband had a job and our economic condition was better than now. He has been unemployed since the Taliban came to power, and now he earns around $1 to $3 per day. Overall, our economic condition is not good.
Aid agencies say more than half the country's 38 million people face dire cold and hunger this winter. Nearly 4 million children are malnourished. The toll taken by the severe winters is an indication of an inability of Afghanistan's people to protect themselves against any onslaught. Because there's no system anymore to protect them from the worst. A bigger humanitarian crisis lurks.
Did you know that the tiny Himalayan nation of Nepal is known, among other things, for its ancient rocks, unique gems and precious stones? These are found within and on the banks of its mountainous rivers and streams. Soon, some of these brilliant stones, known as Shaligram, will appear in a very special avatar in neighbouring India. And with this move, the cultural ties between the two countries are sure to be cemented further. Take a look. Nepal, home to some of the world's mightiest mountains, the nation's identity itself. Here's another little known dimension. Nepal's mineral wealth, ancient rocks, unique gems and precious stones, found within and on the banks of its mountainous rivers and streams. These brilliant stones, the Shaligram, unique to Nepal, will soon have a very special avatar. 2 Shaligram rocks will be taken to Ayodhya city in neighbouring India to be carved into the idol of Hindu deity Ram, to be placed at the grand Ram temple being built there. Each one 7 feet long by 5 feet wide, weighs 350 tons.
I'm at one of the biggest, oldest and sacred rivers of Nepal, Kali Gandaki River. This flows from the north to the south section of Nepal. It is considered to be one of the biggest tributaries of River Ganga in India. Among many stones found on the banks of the River Gandaki, Shaligram Shila is one of the kind stones that is rarely found and is ingrained with special properties. Indian and Nepali authorities have now decided to craft Lord Ram statue for Ayodhya temple with the Shaligram stone right there that you see behind me will be sent to Ayodhya for the crafting of the Lord Ram statue.
The iconic Shaligram originates here, on the banks of the river Kali Gandaki or Narayani. A special ceremony took place on the banks of the river, around the rocks. Hindus worldwide worship the stone as a representation of Lord Vishnu, of whom Ram is an incarnation. The process of selection for a rock for the Ram temple idol had started in August 2022. A team of experts had already chosen the Shaligram. The Kali Gandaki was the only spot they could find it. The Shaligram now heads to Ayodhya as Hindus around the world watch construction of the temple closely. The rocks turn symbols of a special age-old bond between the people of India and Nepal.
Every stone which is in the Kali Gandaki river, it is Shaligram and it is equivalent to Shaligram. And we have conveyed this message and this technical details of this stone to the Ayodhya authorities, and they have approved it, and that is why we are now in the process of transporting this stone to the Ayodhya through Janakpur.
It is the part of the traditional relationship, cultural relationship between Nepal and India, and it is we are the proud that the statue of Bhagavan Ram is taken from this place. We are very proud and happy.
Scientifically, the Shaligram is a fossil ammonite stone, millions of years old, formed by high-pressure geological shifts of rocks and seawater. And this is the only place on earth it can be found. It's called Mukti Kshetra and Shaligram Kshetra, extending from Upper Mustang in North Nepal to the south. The Kali Gandaki river originates in Mustang and flows through Galeshwar in Myagdi district. The Galeshwar temple, built on a Shaligram slab, is one of Nepal's biggest tourism epicenters. The stone takes on dimensions of legend and law here.
While performing Ras Leela in Vrindavan, India, Lord Krishna asked Goddess Radha her one wish. Goddess Radha said she would want to be his mother and carry him as her child. Lord Krishna said, now it is not possible, but in the next life, when you will be present in the form of river in Gandaki, then I will be in the river in the form of Shaligram, and I will sit on your lap. In this life you are my wife, and later I will accept you as my mother. So Radha is here in the form of river, and Lord Krishna is here in the form of Shaligram.
Down centuries, the Shaligram Shila, the iconic rock, has taken on multiple roles and dimensions in different shapes and sizes, also in character. Today, the Shaligram from Nepal, being used for the Ram temple in Ayodhya, takes the cultural symbolism of the Nepal-India bond to a new level.
The stone that you see behind me, full decked up, is being taken to Ayodhya for the crafting of Lord Ram's statue for Ayodhya temple. The importance of Shaligram stone has been mentioned in many Hindus' religious texts. The worth of the stone is way more than any other materials like gold and silver, as it is believed. The stone, the Shaligram stone, is present in Kali Gandaki river for more than 400 million years. Saloni Murarka for WION in Myagdi district, Nepal.
And finally, what a wonderful month it's turning out to be for Indian cinema. After a magnificent win at the Golden Globes, Natu Natu has won an Oscar nomination for Best Original Song. Filmmaker S.S. Rajamouli's magnum opus RRR continues to make waves worldwide. And it's not just RRR. At the 95th Academy Awards, India has picked up 3 nominations. Indian documentary All That Breathes by Shaunak Sen has received a nod for the Best Documentary Feature. The film has previously won the World Cinema Grand Jury Prize at the Sundance Film Festival. India's The Elephant Whisperers 2 has earned a nomination in the Best Documentary Short Film category. Directed by Kartiki Gonzalez, The Elephant Whisperers depicts an unbreakable bond between 2 abandoned elephants and their caretakers. You simply can't stop dancing to Natu Natu. No wonder then the song has taken the world by storm and has global music and film legends swooning over it. Of course, we're going to root for all the 3 Indian films at the much-awaited Oscars. And that brings us to the end of this edition of Inside South Asia. Do join us again next week as we return with all the action from the region. Till then, stay safe and well. I'm Neha Khanna signing off. Thanks for watching and stay tuned to WION World is One.